And a good Monday afternoon to you. Welcome on into lunch with Claibs and Joe, powered by Gray Bar, driven by Mugganass St. Louis Acura here on Claibs Online. I'm Joe Roderick, joined alongside by Mike Claiborne, fresh off a Cardinal at Busch Stadium, getting ready for a full week of games down there, as well as a 3-series homestand for the Redbirds before. I mean, do they have any more teams out west that they have to play?
Yeah, they
I mean,
do.
is that where they're heading back out again after this? I
No,
haven't
we
looked at the
we
calendar.
don't go out there again until the last week of the season. San
Good,
Francisco and Colorado,
good.
or
I'm
Colorado
sure.
and San Francisco.
Yeah. So weekend series this past weekend, just not I'm drawing a blank on who they even just played. The Red
Boston Red
Sox. That's
Sox.
right.
Yeah,
The Red Sox. Rafael Devers homers in all three games of the series. Good player for him, and a team that I do. What's the identity of the Red Sox?
they
You
don't
have an
have one.
idea. That's what I was saying. After
They
three
have a
games, I don't
collection
know
of
what they are.
players. They have a collection of players. This goes back to the prior administration where they just couldn't make decisions on players, and they kind of stuck for a year or two. Now they have some good young players. Uh, Rafaela is going to be a good player. You mentioned Devers, who's a really good player, and I gave people a heads up on that on Friday. He's starting to swing the bat a lot better. They got some plug-ins with Dominic Smith. Their catcher is pretty good. So they're maybe they're less than 500 as we speak, but they're not that far away from competing. But the problem is they're in one of the toughest divisions in baseball in the American League East. So no matter how good they think they can be, there's a team that's going to be 5-10 games better than them, and that's what we're seeing now.
Yeah, the AL East continues their trip into St. Louis as the Baltimore Orioles are there for 3 starting tonight. One of the best teams in baseball, and as of right now, American League MVP frontrunner Gunnar Henderson coming to St. Louis for the next couple nights.
They are a really good team, a young team that they've drafted well, and they've had enough practice of drafting early, and it's all started to come together. And I give them credit for being patient. New ownership, that should be interesting on how they take this team in a different direction than what the previous ownership was taking them in, and not spending any money and not really developing players. And when they did spend money, they spent it on some bad contracts. So this will be an interesting time to see what direction they truly want to go. But right now, they're pretty good.
And as I just looked at the pitching matchups, the Cardinals will miss Corbin Burns
Yeah, he pitched
this
yesterday.
week. Yeah,
Yeah,
so that's good. That's a bright spot before the series starts.
Burns is, as we saw him with Milwaukee, he's really a good pitcher, and nothing's changed with him since he's been in Baltimore. So, we miss him, but they still have some pretty good arms in their rotation. So we'll have some work to do.
Sonny Gray on the mound tonight. That's kind of become appointment viewing for the Cardinals. A bright spot to look forward to in every 5 days for this season.
No, he's fun to watch, man. I think if you really like pitching, if you have kids that want to pitch, you ought to watch this guy. I mean, he's so methodical in everything he does. He pitches with a purpose. He's not afraid to throw inside. He uses all of his pitches, and he calls his own game. That's something that one of the things, and I think it's an advantage for both Herrera and Pedro Pages. Neither one of those guys has a lot of experience. So they're going to do a lot of the work. The pitchers, with pitch count will call their own games, and so far so good. Now, obviously, those catchers will have some input as they go over the game plan. But when you have a Sonny Gray that's going to tell you, hey, I'm going to throw this in this situation. I'm going to throw that. And this is what I like to do to hitters who like to do that. That's a real burden off of a young man's shoulder.
I've noticed the last 2 starts for Sonny Gray since the Wilson Contreras injury, Pages has been the guy that's caught him.
Yeah.
Have you talked to Ali? Is there a reason behind having Pages catch him?
He's just a little bit more comfortable with them. I think they're on the same page a little bit more. And that happens. I mean, there's some pitchers that are just more comfortable with throwing to certain catchers. And if you look back over history, there's certain catchers. The only reason why they stayed around is because they were having a really good pitcher throw to them. Mm-hmm. And I think that's what you're seeing, where he just has a better comfort level. And let's face it, I think Pages is a better defender. He throws better, and he handles balls in the dirt better than Herrera, but Herrera has improved a lot since last year. So it's just a matter of time before he catches up. But I think the reason why Sonny likes him a little bit more is he's a little bit more comfortable with him, and he threw to him a lot more in spring training.
Okay, yeah, I've noticed that, and I figured there was some reasoning behind it, especially with a guy like, I could see that if it was either Contreras or Herrera, but Pages being that third string catcher and not a guy that they intended on having up here all season, or probably as much as he's already been up here this season to be your key offseason acquisitions personal catcher.
Yeah, it's a chemistry issue. Sonny Gray is, for lack of a better term, he's a different cat. Okay.
Meticulous.
Yeah, he is. I really have a lot of respect for him. He's not what you call a media chat. He'll talk on the days he pitches. He doesn't have much to say any other time. And if you want to talk pitching, he'll talk pitching all day. Anything else he could care less about talking about. But having said that, his method of preparation and just him knowing his skill set, I think is really intriguing to watch.
The Cardinals this weekend, a lot of other news has come out off the field stuff, just little tidbits here and there. First of all, kind of breaking late last week, and this is something I'm really looking forward to Friday night when the Cubs are in town. It's going to be Joe Buck and Chip Carey on the call on the TV side of things, doing the first Buck Carey game in. I know they put it in the press release. I haven't seen how many years it's been since Buck and Carey called the game together.
Probably 69 was their last year.
Yeah, and the first time Joe Buck's calling baseball in 3 years.
I don't think Joe's forgotten how to call it.
I
If
don't think
that's what you're
so either.
concerned about. All right.
Yeah. It's gonna be it'll be exciting to listen to those two do that together. I know both of those guys very well, and would imagine they're both excited to just get together and have some fun in the booth.
Well, I expect them both to have a good time. They both have a very even keeled demeanor about themselves, and they're very good at what they do. It should be a lot of fun. It will even be more fun if the Cardinals win. So let's see what happens.
The Hall of Fame announced over the weekend. Matt Morris, Dave Duncan, two of the names that are going into the Cardinal Hall of Fame, as they've kind of limited, they've kind of broken down a little bit, cut back on how many guys they're inducting every year. It seems.
Well, I think that they feel like, and again, I'm not on the committee.
How are you
And
not on that committee?
I have no idea. Because when I saw some of the names who were on the committee, I've forgotten more about baseball than some of those people know. Okay. But that's not my call. Um, I thought the selections were okay. I think Dave Ricketts and Ricky Horton made this point the other day. Dave Ricketts is a guy who probably should be in the Cardinal Hall of Fame. Uh, I have a problem with Al Robosky not being in the Cardinal Hall of Fame. That doesn't mean that Dave Duncan doesn't deserve consideration. It doesn't mean that Matt Morris does not deserve consideration because Matt Morris produced on the field. So I get that one. But when you talk about people who had an impact on this organization and also played in this organization, and is also on a World Series team in this organization, I think Dave Ricketts should get greater consideration. And with regard to Al, who's been with the team since 1970? And has done everything, including win awards and become an all-star, not to mention an accomplished broadcaster and one of the best ambassadors we have. He's done everything. I don't know what else he needs to do in order to be a Cardinal Hall of Famer, but I'm not on that committee.
Something to look forward to over the next couple of years then
I'm
with
looking
that.
forward to it.
And then Claibs, of course, the big news today that is all over social media, all over MLB.com. The Cardinals have finally released their City Connect jerseys. There they are for you if you're watching on YouTube or any of our other accounts. The all red, the Lou across the front of it. Claibs, the Cardinal fashion icon that you are, please rate and break down
I
these
like
City
it.
Connect jerseys.
I like it. I've seen some that I thought were not so good. When you have the single color, the one color uniform, you might as well have a softball team. But I like the way this one works because you don't lose the birds on the bat. And here's one thing about the Cardinal uniform, unlike most uniforms in baseball, the logos are embroidered. And if I'm a little bit of a detail guy about that, so I like the color. I'm anxious to see what the stripe looks like down the side of the pants. We haven't had that. And the STL, that makes sense. So I don't really have a problem with the uniform at all. We're going to wear it, I believe, 12 times this year. I think it's going to be a big seller. Uh, I think it's going to be a bigger seller than the Road Blues.
The issue with the selling of it, I could just speak to this from having bought many of them for Hudson, is right now the jerseys that they sell in the team store
Yeah.
are already red. Those are red with the birds on the bat across it. So this does look a lot like the T-shirts that they already sell in the locker room for that. So hopefully these do sell for that. You mentioned the softball uniforms and that. I felt like that was one of the things that made the City Connect jerseys jump out was the different colored pants.
Yeah.
I don't
Mhm.
like it for all the teams. I really expected the Cardinals to have red on red. I thought the pants were going to be red too, and they were going to be red from top to bottom.
Thank God they're not.
It's
I
just 12
just,
times a year.
yeah, I know. I couldn't take it 2 times a year. I think, and you know what, the worst example is when you watch a Thursday night football and they wear, green on green. One of the things I like about the NFL with teams who have pants that don't necessarily, they have dark colored pants compared to the traditional white. I think it says a little bit more about the detail, and I'm just glad the Cardinals don't have red pants.
Yeah,
Doesn't work for me.
as you mentioned, they I believe Friday night is when they will be wearing them for the first
Yeah,
time with the Cubs in town, and you'll be able to buy them at the team store here very soon, as well. If not already tonight, I would imagine they've
I
probably
think
had.
tonight you'll be able to buy them. I
Yeah.
think they have exclusivity for a week, I believe,
Hmm.
until everybody can go online and buy them or go wherever you get your uniforms from.
Hmm.
But the team store is the only place, to my knowledge, that you can get it this week.
Have you gotten yours yet? Have they
I have
delivered you
not.
one yet?
I'm going to see Bill DeWitt the third this evening, so maybe he'll have one in hand. But you know what? I am not a big uniform collector, as you know. I have autographed jerseys that hang in my office. I have autographed jerseys that are still in the container. But you won't see Claibs come to the ballpark with his jersey on, in this situation. Now, I might find a place to wear it, but I think they're neat. I think it's a nice novelty to have.
Not like the bird hat though. That I mean, you've
Oh,
been
I had
seeing
one of
what you
those.
have been wearing one of those around
No,
town
that's
for the last
different.
2 weeks
That's
now.
different. I
One of
wear
those
that
bird
anywhere.
hats. Yeah,
Yeah,
that
I wear
is
that anywhere.
right.
That's a whole different story.
Yeah, so that
So
is
yeah,
that is I have been
I
sent
thought
so
I
many
might have one
pictures of
close
you from
by,
all
but
around, yeah, all around town,
I
just
don't have
wearing
one
that
close
out
by.
at the gym, out in
Yeah,
the when you're walking the
Cafe
dog.
Napoli. Yeah,
Yeah, absolutely. So that's I mean that should be a that's your latest fashion trend
yeah.
right
I'm
now.
surprised it hasn't caught on more, but it will.
Claibs, this past weekend on Friday, I made a little bit of a road trip to head up to Chicago. I think it was around Wednesday night. I was just kind of looking ahead at some of the pitching matchups, and I saw that rookie phenom Paul Skeens was pitching against the Cubs up in Wrigley Field. And since there's about 3 days left in school, I said, Hudson, you don't need to go to school today. Let's head on up there. So we hit the road around 7 a.m. on Friday, drove up to Wrigley. It was his first time getting to see a game at Wrigley. And to drive 4.5 hours to go watch one guy pitch, if you saw the stat line that Paul Skeen put out there on Friday, I'd say it was well worth the drive up there to get a chance to see him in his second career major league start.
Well, his numbers were impressive. I happened to watch the game at home that day, and just to see the movement on his ball and just to see the velocity in those first seven batters who didn't have much of a chance, it was impressive. My only concern is two things. He used 100 pitches to get to 6 innings,
Mm-hmm.
which I think, and I know Ali and I argue about this all the time. It's unacceptable to me, that we have to use that many pitches when And now I'm getting on my history horse here when I've seen guys do a lot more with a lot less. And I get the full max effort, but what were they doing, 10 years ago, 20 years ago?
Right.
That wasn't full max effort. But that's the first thing. Second thing is, now granted, that was only his second outing, so I expect him to grow with the job. When do you schedule a Tommy John surgery? Because we've seen too many guys that throw hard and throw extremely hard that don't end up having this. And I was having this conversation, maybe it was you I was talking to last week about the fact the only guy who kind of started this whole trend was Aroldis Chapman. I think he might be the only guy that didn't have Tommy John because
Right.
everybody else who came in trying to throw 100 finds themselves having it at some point in their career.
Chapman also got a nice little break from the game of baseball for a few months, thanks to some of his off-field activities. So maybe that saved his arm at some point. But you do see, yeah, it's only a matter of time. It feels like, and I wanted to get up there and see him with his original parts. I wanted to see him with his original elbow go out there and pitch. And Claibs, I have never been in the ballpark where 2 innings into a game, I kind of looked and I mean, I turned to Hudson and I said, we might see a no hitter today because the first 6 batters that the Cubs put up there against him, they were flailing. They couldn't catch up to the fastball. They had no idea what to do when he threw a slider to them. You're looking up at the board. So where I was sitting, I couldn't see all the movement of everything, but you look up there, you're seeing a 96-mile-an-hour splitter up there as opposed to a 101 fastball. And then to see the highlights of it later, and you said you watched the game, so you had the pitcher's eye to watch that. I mean, this is 101 with movement too.
Yeah, the one guy who I thought would hit him is Christopher Morel, because he's a dead red hitter. And Morel really was having problems when he was throwing the cutter in on him. And I was a little surprised that Morel didn't have a better day with regard to contact. Now, having said that, there's some guys that can't wait to get a crack at this guy the next time around because now they know what he's got and they can see for themselves. But I think he's going to have a pretty good career. I mean, he's gotten off obviously to a good start. I'm just concerned about when his elbow goes out, and he's got to figure out how to be more effective with his pitch count. And as I was saying before we started this, a lot of times he had guys in 3-2 counts, guys were fouling off pitches. And that's what happens now more than we used to see, where a lot of guys are just fouling balls off. And instead of having a 5 to 6 pitch at bat, you may be having an 8 to 12 pitch at bat, and you're not going to be around long if you have it keep elevating like that.
Yeah, I believe his next start coming later this week against the Giants, is who he'll face. So again, not the greatest lineup in baseball. It'd be a lot of fun to watch him if he was a day later against the Braves, because I think that's how the schedule lines up for the Pirates. But I think against the Giants, might see another successful outing for him the next time around.
And don't get intimidated. Don't just look at the numbers. I mean the names, because there's some guys who may not have the lofty name or reputation that turn guys like that around pretty quick. So let's just wait and see.
This is Lunch with Claibs and Joe, powered by Gray Bar, driven by Munganess St. Louis Acura. Claibs, also one of our sponsors, are the St. Louis Cardinals. And I want to talk about something, not just game-related ticket sales promotions. Last Wednesday, had a field trip. Hudson had a fifth grade field trip up there at Busch Stadium. It's more than just doing, this is for any schools out there, any teachers that might be listening to this later. The Cardinals do a really good job of making it educational as well. They have a whole program surrounding the field trips that they have in there. They give you a quick tour of the stadium. They take you up to the radio booth, Claibs, where you work 81 days a year. And then they sit them down and they have little math, science, geography things that they make the kids sit and do to wrap up their day at the school there. So that's just another added thing that the Cardinals, another department that the Cardinals have within the entire organization to make it fun for all ages and get schools up there all year long.
No, it's a fun venture. I know we've had some tours come in the booth when I was there. And the people who give the tours are very, very well educated on the tour and the detail that takes place. So yeah, it's a great field trip. You know what? It's great for adults to see how this thing works. I think sometimes we take too many things for granted, and until you see for yourself, you'll have a better idea and certainly a greater appreciation for when you do go to the ballpark.
We will take a break. We have a lot more to get to here on Lunch with Claibs and Joe here on Claibs Online.
Munganess St. Louis Acura is making room for the 2025 MDX, so that means great deals for you on the 2024 MDX. We have over 100 2024 MDX models in stock, and you get financing as low as 3.9% for up to 60 months. Or you can lease a new MDX for just $559 per month for 36 months. Or get the MDX technology model for just $589 per month for 36 months. Munganess St. Louis Acura, better than ever for you.
Back here, Lunch with Claibs and Joe here on Claibs Online, powered by Gray Bar, driven by Munganess St. Louis Acura, and Claibs also brought to you by the Missouri Athletic Club.
Missouri Athletic Club was over there recently, and it's a fun place to be all year round. That's the one thing we want to make sure is not just a summer event. Although they have a lot of summer programs for kids, but they have a lot of other programs that just take place for the members. 2 locations, West County and downtown. Whether you have an event you want to host or you have some other meetings you need to be at, or if you just want to get a good workout in, they have great fitness facilities, but they have so many things, golf included, that would certainly pique your interest. Pickleball is big these days. Tennis is huge at this time of the year, but it's just a great family setting for whether you want to have a family event or a business event, whether it's lunch or dinner. They take good care of you. In downtown, of course, they have the hotel. So if you have family and friends that come in for a Cardinal game, it's not that far for them to go. So there are a lot of reasons why you should check out the Missouri Athletic Club. Check them out online. And once you do, you'll understand why so many people think it's such a great place.
Once you get those hips rehabbed, Claibs, are you going to take up pickleball?
No.
Ricky,
No.
I feel like Rick Horton, I bet he's big in pickleball,
No.
is he? He's
No.
not?
Chip Carey played it the other day and blew out a calf. It's the highest rated injury in America right now.
Well, yeah, because look
injury.
at the ages that are playing it.
Maybe that's the case.
That
But
is the case.
And we have a pickleball court where I live, and I see people playing it. It maybe at some point. I just don't have an interest.
You play it once, you get a little hooked on it.
I have played it.
Times. It's fun.
I played it. Maybe for all the wrong reasons, but point being, it was something that
Hey, Claibs, this past weekend, the PGA Championship was taking place down in Louisville. I had completely forgot that this was even on the calendar. And Thursday night, Andy Hanselman kind of brought it up to me, forgot to talk about it on our show. And then Friday, I think the whole world learned that the PGA Championship was going on as the early morning start before everything got teed off. Scotty Scheffler, the world number 1, got arrested, got booked, and then got back for his tee time. One of the wildest mornings in golf, I think, since Tiger Woods on Thanksgiving.
Well, yeah, it was obviously unfortunate miscommunication on both sides. But we keep prefacing it by the world's number 1 golfer. What if he was 150th golfer? They both did something wrong, okay? So I don't really compare Scotty Scheffler to the last guy on the tour. There was a miscommunication. He got arrested for it. Now, where it goes from here, we'll have to wait and see. But, to convict somebody, I don't know. To accuse the police of not doing their job, I don't know. We're probably somewhere in the middle. But obviously, as you mentioned, it was a big news to golf because it had nothing to do with golf. It just had something to do with a golfer. So he's arraigned on Tuesday. I'm sure that they'll have some discussions about this. I think the key is there was a second-degree assault, which is a felony. How does the police union feel about that if they let this guy slide with nothing? Because the officer was injured. You can't deny that. So where does this go? How does this look to the other men in blue and how this is handled?
Right.
And, I don't care if he's number 1 or not. If he didn't adhere to what their command was, and he's wrong.
Well, I mean, being number 1 makes the spotlight bigger on it. If it was any golfer, if it was the 100-ranked golfer, all right, it makes news and it's talked about, and the guy may or may not make the cut.
Here's the other thing about it.
There's also, too, you look at the gambling aspect of it, too, that a lot of people probably had a lot of money on Scotty Scheffler.
And had ESPN not had a person who happened to be there,
Right there, yeah, Jeff Darlington.
I don't know if it would be as big of a story because we would not have had the description and accounts of what took place.
Right. And yeah, the eyewitness of everything with that, and somebody able to jump right on TV right away and give a firsthand account of it too.
Which, you know what, I brought up ESPN, and it's got to stop. And let's start with the NBA. Hey man, look, if you don't want the Knicks to win, that's fine. But to have how they covered the Knicks game yesterday,
you didn't like Stephen A. Smith's pregame pep talk with Spike Lee and
well, I think here's what was even more embarrassing. And I get when they show these players getting off the bus, coming in and seeing their fashion. I've been doing that for the last 35 years. Okay. So this is nothing new. But now every other sport thinks they want to do it. I get it when they want to do the player, you know. But why Stephen A. Smith got to be part of this? Is he playing? Is he? I know the Knicks are hurt. They had a lot of players that are injured that can't play. And according to Stephen A., he was a great player at Winston-Salem State. I know people that would beg to differ there. So I'm not sure what the emphasis was on why they felt it was important to see what fashion statement he was making. I can't think of anything else. Can you?
I mean, there are people that ESPN has made into stars over the year and made them bigger than the games that they cover. And Stephen A. has become one of those. Yes,
that's one thing. Their hockey coverage is beyond embarrassing. Okay, I enjoy Buccigross and Kevin Weeks. I think they really stay on top of the game. The between period reporting and their between period shows just. You know, I love Mark Messier. It's just too bad he doesn't have anybody to work with. ESPN has just totally messed this thing up. And they used to be the gold standard when they had the hockey the first time. You know, and they just okay. I'm off the box on that. I'm off the soapbox.
You've gotten to the NBA. We might as well keep going with the NBA. We had 2 Game 7s yesterday.
Yeah.
You mentioned. I mean. Maybe it's a good thing the Knicks for the NBA and for TV viewership that the Knicks didn't win their game, because I don't know if they would have had 5 guys to suit up against the Celtics.
It would just give everybody more excuses,
right?
Well, you know, but I tried to tell you earlier that the Pacers were not to be messed with because of the fact that they led the league in scoring.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so they didn't just stumble into this thing. And the other thing was, once the Knicks bench got exposed, it was over. You know, Alec Burke is a great scorer. Alec Burke couldn't guard a parked car, okay? And that's why Thibodeau didn't play him. And Thibodeau is a very defensive-minded coach. But in this situation, he had no choice. And Burke is the only reason why they kept it close is they did. And they got mauled yesterday. So with that said, it would not have been a good next round.
Right.
I think the Pacers are going to give the Celtics all they want because they have size. They have a decent bench, and they can score. And that's going to make some people in Boston have to play defense. And that's going to be a very good series. Very good series. On the other side, I think I was one of the first ones to tell you, be careful of Minnesota. For the very reason why Denver got beat, they didn't have enough bench, and they didn't have enough guys who were willing to play defense. You can't with Michael Porter Jr., his desire to play defense is not what you needed. And they didn't have enough of a bench to come in and help. And Minnesota had some guys that came in, you know, even when both of their big guys got in foul trouble, they had Nash that came in. I forgot his last name. Came
Nas
in.
Reed.
Yeah. He did a phenomenal job. And Michael Conley Jr. has just been terrific all throughout this series or all throughout the season. So I was not surprised. Not surprised at all. I think that they're going to give Dallas a problem because of their size, because of their bench. But Dallas really showed me something. Although I thought that last call, I thought Tony Brothers and his crew were not very good on Saturday night. I didn't think they were very good. And that's going to happen at this time of year.
What was, with the Timberwolves winning last night, coming back from being down 20 very early in the third quarter, and being able to do that with Anthony Edwards not having a good game really at all on the offensive side of things. Only 16 points for him last night, and Denver did a good job of making him uncomfortable many times in the game yesterday. And as you mentioned, the big men, everybody else had to step up around Anthony Edwards to make that comeback happen.
Yeah, they did. And Edwards was doing a lot of things away from the ball, forcing steals, putting himself in great position defensively, and drawing the double team. A pretty good team. I tell you what I was disappointed in, Michael Malone, his post game. Now, granted, the question was probably a sensitive one, and you just lost. And the guy asked him about, the 20-point lead, the whole 9 yards. And I think he ended it by saying, "What a fucking stupid question," or something to that effect, And I always think that when you get in those situations, we need to think about a cooling off period, a little bit more of a cooling off period, because people say things emotionally they end up regretting the next day or having to apologize the next day because we want to talk to them right after the game. We want to feel that emotion. Well, with emotion sometimes comes honesty. And that's what we saw yesterday. But, Michael Malone's better than that. And I'm not trying to take the side of the media guy here because I've sat through 100, if not 1,000 bad questions or inaccurate statements that they want to see a person get a rise from. I kind of see it every day here, but not as big as you see on the national stage.
So in the NBA, you have 4 teams, new teams in the conference championship, the three new teams. The Celtics were in the conference championship last year, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. So 3 new teams in the conference championships this year. We will have a new champion again. This is 6 years in a row of having a brand new champion.
That's what's great about the league.
So for every year that we have gone in there thinking that it's the same teams again, we're seeing some of the most parity in the NBA in a really, really long time, if not ever.
No, I think you make a good point because normally we're thinking Lakers, Golden State, one of those teams. Boston has had their moment for sure, but man, you look around now and it's, we just talked about these teams that are in, and guess what? They're not going anywhere. There's another wave of teams that are just around the corner. I think about a team like Sacramento that's just around the corner. They're a team that you're going to start to hearing more about. San Antonio's 2 years away.
I was just going to say the Spurs. I mean, they have a number 8 pick in the draft this year, but you have one of the most fascinating players in the game right now that just finished his rookie year. What's that season 2 jump going to look like for him?
Yeah. And, you think about a team like Houston that's not far away. I mean, there are so many teams that are taking a step forward. And
the Thunder were just the 1 seed in all of this.
That's what everybody overlooks. That's what everybody overlooks. And as I've said to you before, Sam Presti, their GM, is probably the best sports executive going right now. You pick a sport. I think him and the guy who's running the Florida Panthers right now have done just remarkable jobs of not only continuing to draft and sign free agents, but also maintain, and they've done a real good job. But I think consider his market size. He's as good as anybody in the game. And you pick a sport now and show me who's better than him.
So that starts tomorrow night, NBA Conference Championship, and games every single night for for the next couple of weeks here. Pacers and Celtics starting tomorrow. Those games are on ESPN. The Mavericks and Timberwolves Claibs are on TNT. And this is kind of the last run for the guys on the inside the NBA for that group of guys, as it does not look as what is it? NBC and ESPN are getting the rights now to the NBA.
I don't know. I'm going to hold off on that. I think that some things have leaked, and the backstory here is the guy who's running Turner or Warner Brothers, whatever they call themselves now, made some comments that were a little unflattering with regard to them not needing the NBA. And I think Adam Silver took it a little personal, and maybe they're trying to extract a little bit more blood out of this situation. I don't know. but I'm not one that's just going to throw dirt over this at this point. From what I was told, somebody might have jumped a gun on this.
All right, something to keep an eye on. More TV news and notes coming up in just a bit, but we do need to take another break here on Lunch with Claibs and Joe, powered by Gray Bar, driven by Munganast St. Louis Acura. Claibs, we were out at Munganast St. Louis Acura just last week, saw some of the new cars they have out there on the lot, and talked with Peter Munganast on the show as well.
Talk to Peter about some of the cars they have on the lot now and some of the ones that are on the way. But, with that comes some pretty good pricing in this day and age where if you've seen some of the prices, the sticker shock on some of these cars, it is truly sticker shock. But, at Munganast, they get it. They find a way to make it just a little bit more soothing for you, whether it's a new car or a pre-owned car. They're willing to deal. There's some places you go, they just say, well, this is what the price is. Sorry, I can't do anything for you. Munganast, that's a little bit of a different setup. On both sides of the river, you'll be impressed with the selection. You'll certainly be impressed with the sales and the service when you need it. So if you're thinking about a car, I know it's graduation time and maybe you're sending one off to college, or maybe it's a gift for them graduating and almost getting out of your pocket. Munganast would be a good starting point for you. You can go online and see some of the selection. You can also go out and see for yourself a very experienced staff that's there to accommodate your concerns and certainly try and address your needs. So either one, Munganast Toyota over in Alton, Illinois, Munganast Burkhart Toyota over in Alton, Illinois. And also you can go across the river over in Manchester. They have a huge facility and a huge selection that you can be certainly happy with and certainly walk out of there with a deal that you like.
Take a break. Back to wrap things up right after this.
Can Gray Bar help my electrical and datacom jobs be more productive?
Yep. Our supply chain services are designed to do just that.
Like job site services?
Yep. We deliver the products you need where and when you need them, no matter your industry.
What if I have technical questions?
Yep. Our specialists are top-notch.
Emergency support?
Yep. Even after hours.
They're a unicorn.
When you need to keep your projects productive and profitable, rely on Gray Bar to help you get the job done right. No unicorns required. Yep, Gray Bar does that.
Back here on Lunch with Claibs and Joe, powered by Gray Bar, driven by Munganast St. Louis Acura. Claibs, you touched on the NHL briefly. We have one more game in the NHL playoffs before we get to their conference finals. That takes place tonight. Oilers and Canucks. It's Game 7 in Van. Final Four are out there. Who do you like tonight?
I'm kind of torn on this one. Okay, I've always been an Oiler fan, and you look at their roster, they have McDavid and Draisaitl and some other good players. They really show Vancouver what's it like. They kind of embarrassed them the other night. But, man, I was a Vancouver Canuck fan from the day they got in the league, and I don't even know why, okay? I can tell you who their first captain was. That's how much I was into them. And when they had their run against the Rangers, I may have been one of the few guys pulling for them. I know Rick Tocchet, and I know he's a tough, hard-nosed coach, and I'm kind of rooting for him as well. But I'll tell you something. It's really hard to beat a team after you've embarrassed them the game before, especially at this level. And the way Edmonton just had their way with Vancouver, you got to think there's some guys in that dressing room that said, boys, we can't have this happen again. Now, one of the concerns is Brock Besser, who's not going to play. He's got some circulation problems, so he's not in the lineup, and he's been a very important player for them. So that means somebody else is going to have to pick up some minutes. So I'm going to say, it's going to go in overtime, and I'm going to take the Vancouver Canucks.
All right.
Which means Connor McDavid will be thwarted again.
I kind of want to say, Connor McDavid, best player in the league right now. I like when the best players in the league are in the championships. So I'm pulling for the Oilers tonight for that reason for tonight's game.
You know what? I'm gonna change my vote here. I'm taking the Oilers too.
The winner of that faces the Stars. So you have the baseball team from Dallas is the reigning World Series winner. You have the basketball team from Dallas in the Western Conference Finals of the NBA, and you have the hockey team in Dallas in the Western Conference Finals in the NHL, and then you have the Dallas Cowboys.
And we have the Cardinals and the Battlehawks.
Mm-hmm.
Well, the Battlehawks are the only ones that have been in postseason play.
They just earned themselves a right. I think I saw
Congratulations to them.
Jim Thomas, I think, tweeted first time in 20 years that a St. Louis football team has made the playoffs.
Well, good for them.
Yeah.
Good for them. The other side, that Florida team is the best team going. They'll have their hands full with the Rangers. Both of them have very good goaltending. Both of those teams can roll 4 lines. This is going to be an epic series. The concern I have is, will there be anything left for them for the winner to get to the finals? This is a grinding, grueling sport, and physically, you're gonna see some people get knocked around in this series. I can promise you that.
Claibs, you called it last week when we were talking about some of the job openings around the NHL. You said to keep an eye on Toronto for the next home of Craig Berube, and that's where he signed. I believe they're going to make it official tomorrow, but news came out over the weekend.
4-year deal for the Chief. Everybody's wondering what his staff is going to look like. I know he's already taken Savard, used to coach here in St. Louis, worked a power play for him here. He used to play for the Boston Bruins. Apparently, he's going to join him. Mike Van Ryn might be part of his coaching staff again. I think the X factor here is what happens to Steve Ott, who I think is head coach in waiting. Where does he go? I mean, he's got a family situation here. I think Steve Ott's a really good coach. He was a very good player. I think, boy, if they lose, the Blues lose him, they're going to have to do some scrambling to find a legitimate coaching staff, because our current head coach he doesn't have any NHL experience. So, now maybe he knows somebody from the minors he wants to coach with, but I'm not looking for minor league coach. We already have one. Let's go trying to find some National Hockey League coaches.
Claibs, as we wrap up the show today, anything else going on?
A lot of Cardinal baseball this week. Some very good games. I'm anxious to see Baltimore, but I'm even more anxious to see the Chicago Cubs this weekend. It could be
They're hurt right now.
Yeah, that's true. That's why I'm looking forward to seeing
Yeah.
them.
No, Dansby Swanson currently on the IL.
He may be activated tomorrow.
I was going to say, he was close. I know he was taking swings down there. And then the game I went to on Friday, I didn't see if he played this weekend, but Seiya Suzuki also was not in the lineup on Friday. Did not see if he played anymore over the weekend, but I know he spent some time on the injured list too this season.
Yeah. Well, hopefully we'll get Keenan Middleton back here this week. That's a guy who I think can really help the bullpen, because the bullpen's getting used a lot. And if we had another left-handed pitcher or had another legitimate starter, our bullpen would have been okay, because Liberatore would have been in the game on Saturday instead of JoJo Romero, who's a little worn down right now. So we got to find some more pitching. And it shouldn't be a shock to anyone. That's one of the terms we use every year, starting with spring training. Oh, we got enough pitching. No, you don't have enough pitching. You never have enough pitching. And so you might have to make a deal here at some point in order to get somebody legitimate, because we don't know the progress and how Steven Matz is coming along. And I want to count on him coming back to be that X factor guy. So you might have to look outside the organization.
Does Zach Thompson start against the Cubs next weekend?
It's a good question. He's an alternative for sure, but I don't know. I think we're at a crossroads with Zach Thompson, because I really don't know what he is. I don't know whether he's a starter. I don't know whether he's a closer. I don't know.
He has good numbers right now in Memphis for his last.
They all have bridge. No, but as a star, how many innings is he going?
I didn't see that number. I saw the. I just saw, what is it?
4
better
starts,
yet,
3-1,
1.82 ERA.
See, I think you got to have a deeper dive than that at this point, because we are obsessed with pitch counts. And, I know talking to Ali yesterday, he wanted to get 75 pitches out of Liberatore. Well, 75 pitches could be 3 innings at the rate we're going these days. So you got to make sure, guys, his pitch count is congruent to his innings pitched, where it's something that you can work with, where you don't need another guy to come up here and give you 4 innings, and now you got to use 4 relievers. You just can't have it.
Do you know who's joining you live at Lowe's coming up on Friday?
Scheduled as we speak, former Cardinal hurler Kevin Segrist. We may have a surprise guest, and we had a surprise guest this past weekend when Jim Emmons joined Mike Matheny and Chip Carey and myself. So hopefully, fingers crossed, we'll do it again.
All right. Rammer and I will be coming your way later on today with daily cards before the Cardinals and Orioles start their 3-game set. So be on the lookout for that as well. If you missed any part of this show today, you can find it wherever you find your podcasts, or go look it up on YouTube and watch all of Lunch with Claibs and Joe. Until then, he is Mike Claiborne. I'm Joe Roderick. This has been Lunch with Claibs and Joe, powered by Gray Bar, driven by Munganess St. Louis Acura here on Claibs Online.
Are you ready for a challenging and rewarding career? There are quality jobs in the construction industry.
I got out of college and my career choices were very limited, and this provided me with a plan for the present and the future at the same time.
I actually have a bachelor's degree in psychology, and I was making less than I make as a first-year apprentice painter.
I didn't go to college. I have no college debt. I make more money than the majority of people I know that went to college.
Take your first step towards a rewarding career. Visit stlouispdf.org.